Today, we're talking about the immune system, specifically around supplements to support your immune system. And so, this is a great topic. This is an interesting topic and definitely a very complex topic. So, I'm going to keep this brief, as I always say, and invariably not brief. And I'm going to try and keep this as super simple as possible because there's a lot of different factors at play when we talk about our immune system. So I think that it's important that we address the big needle movers, and I want to make sure that you are leaving with a few specific and actionable takeaways that you can immediately implement and utilize rather than me going into all of the science, all of the nuance, all of the research studies. I don't think that that's going to serve you at the highest level. What we want to talk about and break down here is like, what are the big needle movers as it pertains to our immune system? Like, what does that mean? How do we support our immune system through food, through lifestyle, and of course, through supplementation? And are there specific supplements that you can and should take as it pertains to quote unquote supporting or quote unquote boosting your immune system? And so that's what I'm going to share with you in this brief chat. Let's talk immune system. We are rolling into the change in seasons, and you may find that the kids are already starting to come home with cold and flu-like symptoms, getting the stuffy nose, the sore throat, the congestion, the respiratory issues. And I think it's part of what just comes with the territory of being inside more, being exposed to more pathogens, more virus, more bacteria, and then, of course, them spreading those germs throughout the household, throughout the office complexes, and whatnot. And so there's a few things that we really need to take into account, because I'd be remiss if I came into this episode and this conversation of just saying, here's your 5 most important supplements to take, boom. You guys know full well that's not me. That's not what we're all about. We are about the whole body approach, more of the holistic approach, if you will. And so if we're not talking about nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, sleep, then we're not doing our diligence to how the body actually works. And so before I jump into supplements, let's talk about some of the things that really make a big difference as it pertains to staying healthy through the holiday season, through the cold and flu season, and what needs to happen there. So one is we have to look at our lifestyle. And within our lifestyle is we're looking obviously at our nutrition, we're looking at our physical activity, we're looking at our sleep. Now, with respect to our nutrition, one of the biggest and best things that we can do for creating a healthy immune system and supporting a healthy immune system is to, one is definitely to avoid sugar. And I would say to piggyback that is probably avoiding alcohol as well. We know very, very clearly from the research that both alcohol and sugar are absolutely going to suppress the immune system by virtue of doing damage to the intestinal lining, to the gut barrier. And one of the most important elements that is necessary to have a conversation around when we talk about the immune system is actually the gut itself, and how about 80% of our immune system actually resides in our gut. Our digestive system is our first line of defense. If you can imagine, just by virtue of the air that we breathe, the food that we consume, we're constantly taking in pathogens into our internal environment for our body to mount an immune response and fight off said pathogens. So the integrity of that barrier, of that intestinal barrier, of that gut barrier, of that digestive system barrier in and of itself is actually going to dictate how effective our immune system functions. And it's imperative that we actually think about it like that. So Claude Bernard, he was a colleague of Louis Pasteur's, and Louis Pasteur is the originator of the modern germ theory of creating vaccines, of actually identifying and fighting virus and bacteria and pathogens, of being able to specify pathogens and fight them. And his colleague, Claude Bernard, is really the originator of the terrain theory. And what he said, that Louis Pasteur, by the way, backed up on his deathbed, was saying it's not the bug, it's the terrain. And what that means is that we are only as strong as the terrain in our gut, in our microbiome, in our digestive system, because our digestive system is made up of this vast array of what we call a mucosal barrier that helps us digest, absorb, and assimilate nutrients. It helps us obviously fight off pathogens. So essentially helps us take in the good things and keep the bad things out. And so as you can imagine, when we're consuming things that suppress that digestive system barrier, that mucosal barrier, poor quality foods, trans fats, sugar, alcohol, lots of chemicals, then it's going to create degradation into that mucosal barrier. And this is where we find a compromised immune system. This is where people are going to be more likely to get sick. And so it's imperative that we first do the things that are going to be able to support this mucosal barrier by virtue of eating healthy quality food, drinking healthy water, avoiding sugar, avoiding alcohol. I fully realize and acknowledge that no one's going to, in all likelihood, avoid it 100%. That's fine. But especially as we go into this time of year, and I want you to think about your children, really paying attention to the volume of sugar that they're consuming as we roll into this time of year, because it really is profound, the vast amount of sugar that we all consume as humans, to say nothing of each of us individually. Now, the recommended daily allowance maximum for children and adults, I believe, is 25 grams per day of sugar. And so monitoring sugar intake, looking at sleep, making sure we're getting enough sleep, and managing our stress. There's something to be said about this sympathetic nervous system overload that really suppresses our immune system. And I'm sure you've experienced something like that before, of when we're under a tremendous amount of stress, whether it be work, in a relationship, financial levels of stress, that you get sick. Invariably, you get sick. And that's because our nervous system can actually initiate this immune response. It's part of our survival mechanism. So we talked about gut health. We talked about lifestyle, minimizing sugar, especially in our kids, and of course, alcohol for ourselves. We have to talk about daily physical activity, and just understanding that daily movement in and of itself is actually going to ramp up immune system health and function. Now, we're not talking about gross amounts of and ridiculously intense amounts of exercise, but we are talking about just daily physical exertion, because it helps oxygenate our cells. So it drives oxygen into our cells. It helps mobilize white blood cells, which help obviously with our immune system function and fighting off pathogens. It helps with our nervous system balance. It helps reducing stress, and helps drive up and increase kind of immune modulators. And so making sure that we're looking at those things and not just looking for the supplement, the pill, the quick fix, because frankly, if you're not being cognizant of your sleep, of your stress levels, of your physical activity, of your sugar and alcohol intake, then you're just pissing in the wind when it comes to wasting money on supplements, because they're just not going to do anything. And with that said, I think it's important that we look at supplements as just that, as a supplement, is saying, listen, and this is someone coming from someone that manufactures supplements. We have a product on the market that clearly you don't hear me talk about very much. And it's not that it's not a fantastic product, but it's that we know that there's so much more value in talking about nutrition and lifestyle factors as it pertains to improving our long-term health. So with that said, let's dive into some of the big needle movers as it pertains to supporting our immune system. Now, one, vitamin C. We've all heard of vitamin C. It would probably not be a bad idea for every one of us to be taking vitamin C on a daily basis, especially this time of year. And the dosing ranges anywhere from 2 to 5 grams per day in divided doses throughout the day. One of the ways that I strongly encourage we get vitamin C in, and I'm going to talk about a couple progressive therapies that I've found to be very, very, very beneficial for myself, for clients, as well as for our children, especially when we start to get sick. We need to be aggressive and progressive about the ways in which we're treating illness, in my opinion, for what it's worth, in that simple oral supplementation probably isn't going to do that much. Of course, we can be preventative. Of course, it could be beneficial, and there's plenty of research to support specific types of supplements that sort of shorten the duration and the severity of the illness. However, I think one is it's really important that we be in tune with our body and our nervous system and understanding the factors that contribute to us getting sick, as well as the second that we start to feel like we're getting sick, taking some aggressive action around it through progressive modalities, which I'll explain what that means. So in this particular case, we talked about vitamin C. Well, we can talk about IV therapy and getting intravenous vitamin C infusions can go a long way towards being able to ramp up the doses of the vitamin C so that you can get a higher dose to be able to support your immune system, because orally you can only take so much vitamin C, and you'll know very quickly what your upper limit is because you'll be in the bathroom for the rest of the afternoon if you take too much. Perhaps some of you have experienced that. It is not pleasant. And so if orally you're taking vitamin C, probably in powder form, probably sticking from 2 to 5 grams per day in divided doses. But from an IV standpoint, 5, 10, 15 grams is not unreasonable to get a really strong push of vitamin C to support your immune system. We all know about vitamin D, but what I want to caution you with about vitamin D is not to go crazy on the vitamin D supplementation. Vitamin D is a hormone that the body naturally produces from sunlight. And from what I understand, again, for what it's worth, it's really in best practices for us to be able to get that vitamin D from sunlight and not have to rely on it from supplementation. It's going to be better absorbed. It's going to be better utilized. It's going to create better synergy with other minerals and vitamins in the body. And so with that said, the only way for us to effectively do this is to get sunlight on our skin and sunlight into our eyes. What that means is that we need to be in the sun without our shirt on, without sunscreen on at all times, without sunglasses and a hat on at all times of the day. It's imperative that we do get this sunlight on our skin. And it doesn't have to be for hours and hours and hours every day. But even for those of us in Phoenix, it's not uncommon for us to have woefully low levels of vitamin D simply because we're inside or covered up all of the time. And so my encouragement to you is to actually get some sunlight exposure, go for short walks, get sunlight on your skin, take the sunglasses off, get the sunlight in your eyes, because it's a major way that we can actually absorb vitamin D and activate the hormone in our body. So how do we know how much vitamin D we need? How do we know what our vitamin D levels are? You can get vitamin D blood testing, and what you want to look for is a test that says 25 hydroxy D. It's 25 OH-D, and that is the vitamin D3 test. And what we want our levels to be is anywhere from 50. This is optimal levels, by the way. This is probably higher than what the conventional norms are. We want to have optimal levels. 50 to 80 nanograms Ng per DL per deciliter is what we want to see from vitamin D. And if you are going to supplement, then probably any from 2 to 10,000 IUs per day is perfectly safe. Of course, with all of this stuff is you should probably talk to your doctor. I am not a medical professional. And so these are simply what we do. I am not prescribing or treating, obviously. Next, zinc. Zinc is a beneficial vitamin that helps protect against respiratory tract infections. So we know that zinc, and we saw during COVID, a lot of these vitamins and minerals we saw to be very effective for supporting immune function, specifically during COVID. Zinc was definitely one of those. Now, just as a preventative, 30 milligrams per day in divided doses. And you do want to make sure if you're taking zinc, you take it with food because you can get very nauseous if you take it on an empty stomach. So 15 milligrams twice a day is perfectly reasonable. If you are sick, you can work up to about 100 milligrams per day. Similarly, with respect to vitamin D, if you are sick, do make sure that you are getting outside, getting some sunlight on your skin so that your body can start producing those vitamin D levels. As much as we want to lay in bed all day, it is really important that we move, we get sunlight in our eyes and on our skin. And then when we talk about progressive therapies, there's a couple other nutrients. One is glutathione, which is a master antioxidant that the body produces. And second is N-acetylcysteine, NAC for short. And NAC is actually a precursor to glutathione. And both are very, very important and beneficial for respiratory system. In fact, there's some research out specifically from COVID around nebulized glutathione and N-acetylcysteine to help treat respiratory symptoms. That is very, very promising. And so one of the things that I suggest, and I absolutely would do this for my own children for what it's worth, is nebulized glutathione and N-acetylcysteine, usually in a product called Glutacyst. Now, you can take these orally, but it's suggested that the gut and the acids in the gut can break these down and break down the integrity of the molecules very quickly. And so it seems that nebulizing them could be one of the best ways to get these nutrients into the system. And again, to get them impacting directly on the tissues that they're most beneficial for. So vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, glutathione, and NAC are all really, really good. There's a few specific products and a few specific herbs that I'm going to talk through and the specific products that they're in. So we know that there's a lot to be said about medicinal mushrooms, the benefits of medicinal mushrooms as it pertains to supporting our immune system, lots of research coming out. And remember, I'm talking about medicinal mushrooms. I'm not talking about psychogenic mushrooms and all of the things that we experimented with in college. I'm talking about mushrooms like cordyceps, shiitake, maitake, reishi, and some of the polysaccharides that come from these mushroom compounds called beta-glucan, all have been shown to be very effective on different tissues, different aspects of supporting immune system, of brain health, of our nervous system. Some really, really cool stuff, to say nothing of some specific immune modulating herbs like echinacea. We've all heard of echinacea. Another one is astragalus, andrographis, and elderberry is one of my favorites and definitely one of our kids' favorites. Now, there's one product that we recommend called Immunotone or Immunoberry. The Immunotone is a capsule that we recommend, and I'll share a link with you guys in just a second here, that has all of these herbs and mushroom compounds in one product. That's the Immunotone. And the Immunoberry is the liquid version of the Immunotone. That's fantastic for kids if they can't swallow pills. It's a delicious kind of syrupy type of dropper that has all of these immune supportive compounds that we really, really like for the kids, especially when they're starting to get sick. There's another product called Biocidin, and this is really a broad spectrum botanical combination that acts as an antimicrobial, helps fight off viruses, bacteria, fungal infections, parasitic infections. We'll use this when we go to Mexico to prevent Montezuma's revenge, as well as if and when we start to get sick to help fight off any of those potential pathogens. And so I've got a recommendation in our supplement shop, which I'm going to share with you here in a moment, as well as one other product from a company called Microbiome Labs. This is a really, really beneficial product that we're really seeing a lot of profound research around that's based on immunoglobulins. And these are really just components of dairy without any of the dairy peptides, without any of the dairy protein fractions, but just a lot of the healing properties that can come from cow's milk dairy, again, without any of the proteins. So there's no allergenic response or food sensitivity response. And there's more than 57 studies, 43 of which of these are human clinical trials, that support the way these IgG molecules bind to microbes, to fungal infections, to viral antigens, and a myriad of other things. And so when we circle back and we talk about supporting our mucosal barrier and our gut health, this IgG product really can be beneficial to be able to do just that, in addition to, of course, eating healthy quality food, avoiding sugar, avoiding alcohol. And so if it's helpful for you guys, we have actually partnered with a company called Fullscript. And Fullscript is a company that only sells supplements. They're a third-party distributor for all of the best pharmaceutical grade companies like Microbiome Labs, like I talked about, Designs for Health, Thorne Integrative Therapeutics, Pure Encapsulations, Metagenics, you name it, all of the top companies that only sell to medical doctors, to licensed health practitioners, to chiropractors, to naturopathic doctors. And again, like certified clinical nutritionists like myself, they have created a partnership with Fullscript so that you can get all of these quality products in one. We have partnered with Fullscript to be able to offer you all of these products. And what I've done is I've actually created a Ben's Favorites category with 15% off any products that you're interested in. And you can see I've created categories around kids' health, around immune system, cold and flu support, around exercise and recovery, around joint health, around men's support, around women's support, you name it. We've got a myriad of categories that you can dig into Ben's Favorites. You can look at all of the different products and recommendations at 15% off. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can check out the link and just register to create an account. There's no charge for any of it. As a listener, as a follower, I'm happy to offer you 15% off of all of the products in our inventory and would love to be able to support you guys in your health journey. So I hope that's helpful for you. Talking about immune support supplements, I would love to know what questions you have. So do me a favor and just shoot me a message, comment below, send me an email, ben@bslnutrition.com, and let me know what questions you have relative to the supplement shop, the immune support supplements, or frankly, any other supplements that you may have questions about. I'd be happy to talk more about them. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will have all of those show notes down below this episode, as well as the link to create your own unique Fullscript account through BSL Nutrition with 15% off any of the practitioner grade quality supplements, all in one place that you could ask for. Hope that's helpful. Talk soon.